Hi everybody, Paul Haywood here. Here is the second video about vibrato I'm doing. The first one looked at how to do vibrato at all. This one's going to cover different types of vibrato, different situations, which is going to make your playing sound sort of vintage and old school, or a bit more up to date, or a bit more of a sort of a modern use of vibrato. Now, let me play a couple of quick examples for you, all right? And then I'll show you what I'm actually doing differently to get those different sounds. Okay, so there's your old school version. Let's bring it up a little bit to date. Okay, so it's slightly more modern, and then finally, what I'd say is sort of a modern approach to vibrato would be this. Okay, so let's have a little look at what the difference there is. The first one, I'm vibratoing through the entire phrase. I'm doing quite a wide vibrato, quite a strong and dominant vibrato, and it's actually a very present characteristic of the playing there. It's there through the whole phrase. Okay, now that was done a lot back in the day. Some people say it's because big bands were out of tune and they got fashionable because sections were playing it together. But you got to remember that was just a hip sound in the day. Everyone loved it. It sounded cool. All the very coolest guys were playing like that. And yeah, it was good and everyone loved it. But it's very much associated with an older style of playing. So if you're going for that, that's how you do it. Big wide vibrato over everything. That's a simplification, but it's a start. It gets you some way towards that older style of playing. Okay. Now, slightly more modern way of doing it is to hold the vibrato for the long notes. So we don't vibrato through the moving passages. It's only when we hit a longer note that we add some vibrato. Okay? So I'm only vibratoing when I've got a longer note and space to do it. And then there's the approach which I use most of the time, which is generally seen as being a more modern way of doing it. And that's actually holding your vibrato, so not vibratoing through the moving passages, and then on the longer notes where there's space to put a bit of vibrato, a bit more expression and feeling, you save the vibrato for the last anywhere between 50 and 25% of the length of the note. So you play a nice bit of smooth, clean tone without any vibrato, and then you gently bring it in. If you've got a shorter note that you're landing on and you want to put a bit of vibrato in, you still play a little, maybe half the length of the note smooth, and then just throw in a couple of sort of, I don't know, waves, should we call it waves? Wobbles, vibratos, singular. There you go, there's a single vibrato. So you'll end up on a note. And just throw a few moments of vibrato at the end, and that just adds a nice bit of expression. It lets you state the note that you're playing and helps you then add a bit of expression, a bit more feeling to it. Obviously, Stan Getz is a particularly well-known saxophonist from things like Girl from Ipanema and that. But if you look at a lot of his work from sort of like the mid part of his career on, he was really, he did this a lot. He would hit a note, play a really nice tone, and then just throw a bit of vibrato on the end of it to add expression. To the point where sometimes in the middle of a melody, if it was quite a short note still, but it was sort of a note he was landing on, he might only put just one or two bends on it, one or two vibratos. So see if we can emulate that. Okay, so when I went down to that B there, so I'm just ba, ba, and I'm moving straight on, but I'm getting a little bit of clean note in first. Now, just quickly while we're on the subject of vibrato, you can be quite abrasive and aggressive with it in certain situations. I mean, we can look at some of the sort of more aggressive parts of the modal playing jazz. I mean, that's just playing around a pentatonic scale, but you can hear that I'm using quite a lot of strong vibrato there, and giving it that kind of wailing, spiritual, searching sound. You could hear in players like certain stages of Coltrane's playing and stuff like that. You can hear it on alto, on some playing by Kenny Garrett and people like that. So there's lots of different ways of using vibrato, and it's a very personal thing. So I'd recommend finding players that you like their style of and trying to listen specifically to what it is they're doing with their vibrato, because it does actually make quite a big part of people's playing, how you approach it. Personally, I tend to use that formula. I'm not doing it formulaically, but it's a sound I enjoy, and I've kind of picked up is playing the note fairly a chunk of it nice and smooth and straight, and then adding vibrato on the sort of tail end of it. It works for me. It's what I like doing. I prefer that slightly more modern sound. If you're going for the vintage style, look at putting more vibrato on, a slightly wider vibrato, and in more parts of the phrase in your playing. Yeah, there you go. So hopefully that's been helpful to you. If it has, remember to hit like. Leave me a comment if there's anything you want to ask. I'll do my best to try and answer. We've got loads of future videos coming up, so make sure you hit subscribe to catch those. All those things do really make a big difference. So feel free to do any of those. Like, comment, and subscribe. And all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.